So we put together the top 20 reasons why we bought the boat. You got 17 out of 20 of the must-have items on Elli-Yacht, and I don't think we ever expected that we were going to get that many.
To be able to check those off of our list, when we saw it, we knew it was the right boat.
This is not about the dream of retiring and going on a boat. We wanted to be able to find a boat that not only we could live on, but we could cruise on, and we could just have a blast. First of all, we should talk about where we're going to be. So we want to be in the heart of Seattle. We kind of had to look for this sweet spot of 50 feet because we knew we might be able to have some inventory and be able to find liveaboard, but something bigger than that, well, it might be a great boat. We probably just couldn't find moorage for it. And so that started some of the things even on our list of, you know, we're going to have to be able to anchor out. It can't just be on docks when we travel. So that being said, let's start with our top 20 list of must-haves on the Elli-Yacht.
Number 1,
Yeah.
What was important to me was having a galley that was up, not down below. You know, looking at other boats, we saw that they were down below and everybody else is up in the salon having a good time, and you know, you're kind of in this dark cave and it's kind of isolated. So I wanted to have something that was kind of more of a great room feel to it. So that was what was important to me.
Diesel was a no-brainer and a top criteria that was really non-negotiable. For liveaboard, for us, for safety concerns, gas just quite frankly has risks of explosions. Not to mention, with proper maintenance and upkeep, diesel engines, quite frankly, they're just more reasonable to run and they last a lot longer.
Take number 3?
Sure. So it needed to be a 2009 or newer. And the reason we went through and did this is if you're going to finance and get more of a conventional loan, and we wanted to do a 15-year loan on our boat. Look, we want our cash to be working for us. Our cash tends to do much better in our businesses and in the market instead of, you know, having it all wrapped up in a particular asset that quite frankly depreciates. We'd just much rather pay as we go on the boat, especially with the interest rates where they are. It just made a ton of sense for us. Now that being said, if you have a boat that's over 20 years old, it's almost impossible to get conventional financing on them. And that also means that it hits the resale later. So if you've got a boat that's over 20 years old, that means that your prospective buyers, if they can't finance it, you're excluding a ton of buyers in that area as well.
Number 4, what was important to us is that it would have at least 2 staterooms. We have 4 girls and they're older now, but we like to have them on the boat when we can, as well as our friends. So having another couple to be able to go boating with us is just a lot of fun. Number 5 is having separate washer and dryer. A lot of boats will just have just one washer and dryer, and it does it all in one. Having separate washer and dryer was important, especially if you're going to live aboard. You need something that's going to be efficient. So that was something that we were both looking for. Next one is having a Midship Master. We decided that that would be ideal spot on the ship. You're not going to get as much movement if you're in the bow, and you know, if you're in the stern, if there's engine noise. So being right in the middle of the boat is just a sweet spot to sleep.
It really is. So we wanted to have either a hydraulic crane that we could hoist the dinghy out of the water up onto the top deck if we ended up with a pilot house with a bridge, or if we had more of a kind of a sedan cruiser, we wanted to be able to have the rear swim step be able to be a hydraulic swim step, so it could just drop the dinghy into the water. The easier it is to be able to get your dinghy in the water, the more you use your dinghy.
Yep.
I said that out loud. That's terrible. Anyhow. Next one, we talked a little bit about the Genset. I wanted to have at least 10K, they call it, but basically 10,000 watts worth of power. That was key to us because we want to make sure to live, again, comfortably. We want to be able to cook and,
run the washer and dryer and make our coffee in the morning.
That's right. Do all the things that you would do at home. Because we're not looking to camp out, we're looking to live on this boat with all the common luxuries that we have at home. So being able to, you have to have, in our minds, at least 10,000 kilowatts. I know we'll see some comments on this. A lot of people are able to get by with a lot less, or if you stay on the dock all the time with shore power, you don't have to worry about that. Mm-hmm. But we're going to run this boat a lot, and so we wanted to make sure to have that type of power on hand.
Next one, number 9.
Number 9.
Was to be able to cruise at least at 15 knots or more.
Yeah.
Again, we're still working. We've got weekends, and you go to the San Juan Islands for the weekend. You want to get there. You don't want to spend all your time on the water just trying to get there. So, that was something that was important to us, to be able to, get where we want to go in a reasonable amount of time.
Yeah.
So.
And this is a hot topic too. Is it the journey or the destination? We tend to think that it's both. I mean, we don't have a boat that does 35 knots. There's a lot of folks that do, especially if you have younger children. They get bored, so they want to be able to have that. But this is kind of our sweet spot. Number 10 is we needed to have a bow thruster. It's just the two of us handling the boat. So one of us is going to be piloting the boat. The other one is handling, all of the lines as well as the fenders. Mm-hmm. And with a 50-foot boat, that can be a little bit of a handful, even if you're really good at it. So that bow thruster is like having a third hand on the boat. Somebody when it's windy that you would generally have go jump on the dock and handle the lines. That bow thruster really kind of plays that role.
Number 11 is having a hardtop. Obviously, in the salon, it's a great place to entertain, but in the summertime, having a hardtop up on the bridge, it's just great. It's all covered. It's really another place to entertain.
And it extends the season. Carlin was talking about the summer, but you get the entire winter as well. It's another room within the vessel. It's like adding another 400 feet of living space. Number 12. So this Eisenglass. So if you look at this, it could look a lot like just kind of regular canvas that's clear, but this is actually a polycarbonate, which is it's rigid, it's hard. So the clarity is outstanding in it. It also does a great job in the wind, really holding up to wind and the weather. It sheets nicely when it is raining, when you're running the boat. It just keeps you absolutely dry. Upkeep is tough. I mean, you really have to be delicate with it. It scratches super easy because it is fundamentally plastic, but I think the trade-offs are outstanding. And you can flip these windows up as well, so you get a ton of crosswind and air when it starts to get hot.
Number 13 is having swim step staples. It's a big, you call it, tongue twister.
Yeah, is it? Yeah.
Tongue twister. Having swim step staples. That was important to us, and for a couple different reasons. One is safety. When we have lowered the dinghy, just getting on and off of the dinghy, you have something to grab onto. But then just enjoying the boat. You've got, almost gives you 3 feet more of the boat because you can feel safe, you can lean up against it. So it just makes it almost like you have 3 more feet of room. We
didn't really think that this was super important. In fact, a lot of the houses up in the Pacific Northwest, very few of them have air conditioning. Boats are kind of like RVs to a degree. Even though you're on the water and it's a lot cooler, it's an enclosed space made out of fiberglass. Mm-hmm. And even with the white fiberglass reflecting a lot of the heat, it gets hot as hell in these things. But if you're talking about truly being a liveaboard, you better be able to control the temperature in your space or it becomes miserable. And by the way, AC units on boats, they're basically heat pumps or heat exchangers. So not only do they cool the boat in the summer when it gets hot, but you can also heat the boat. The downside is they suck up a ton of energy. So you're really generally about 12,000 watts that you're pulling off of shore power. When you talk about batteries on a boat, being able to get that kind of wattage from batteries is almost unheard of. Yeah. Times are changing with lithium iron phosphate where you can start getting those types of numbers, but AGM and lead acid batteries just simply can't do that. For the heat exchanger units, you're going to suck up a lot of power, so you better have a way to solve that. So that was a big thing for us, and frankly kind of led us into one of our larger expenditures on our refit that we'll be talking about in our next episode as well. Number 15, we wanted to have inlaid glazing. Now, you might say, what the heck is inlaid glazing? It's basically just the windows in the boat. Right around the 2000s, early 2000s, a lot of the more progressive boat builders actually started just laying the windows into the side of the boat. It looks really clean. It's a nice, easy way to make sure that you don't have any leakage around those. It's a pretty logical thing. All of our cars have it, so it's logical. Why not put them on a boat?
Looks good. Yeah,
it looks great. Well, the problem is a lot of the boats that had that in the early 2000s, and quite frankly, even into the early 2010s, what happened was there was a 3M product a lot of the boats used, and the band around the outside of the glass, they call it a frit. So if you go look at the glass on your car, on the windshield, you notice there's a black border around the entire windshield. They call that the frit. In cars, they put it on with a ceramic coating, so it doesn't come off. And it's one of the key ways that when you adhere the windshield into a car, it doesn't leak. That adhesive really sticks to that frit. Well, what happened was that 3M product on a lot of the boats, they sprayed that on because it was all custom glass, and it was too expensive to do this ceramic coating on them for the frit. Well, it started baking off. And so a lot of boats you'll see that have inlaid glass, if you look at the black around them, you can see it peeling off the back of the glass. And what happens is, if it's peeling off the back of the glass, that means that the adhesive is a hold of that. And quite frankly, that means that the window is starting to delaminate from the boat. And so you see a lot of leakage. I've literally seen windows fall out of a boat because of that problem. Now,
so bad. It's
terrible. Now, it can be solved, but it's not cheap. A boat our size, to pull all of the glass out of it, redo the frits, and re-adhere all of the glass, it's like a $30,000 idea. So looking at it, it's not just a cosmetic thing. It's a structural and it's an integrity issue with the watertight nature of the boat. The Elli-Yacht, we were super lucky. This boat, they had pulled every inch of the glazing out of it. They had the entire boat refritted with ceramic coating and had all of it laid back into the boat. So we know that's not a problem that this boat is going to have. But if you do start looking at boats with inlaid glass, really keep a keen eye on that. I'm not saying don't buy the boat, but if it gets caught in survey, it needs to be a major negotiation factor, or that it gets taken care of before you accept the boat. Because while it's a gorgeous addition, it's something that can also have a huge risk as far as expense. But the Elli-Yacht had that already done. That was a big part of the decision for us. We walked away from a lot of navigators, frankly, because they had that problem, and we just didn't want to get wrapped up in having to do all of that work. We wanted to be able to have a boat that was in near Bristol condition to be able to get into, do some minor refits, and really enjoy immediately.
Number 16?
Number 16
is inverter, and I'll let him talk about that.
So most boats up in the Northwest have these. An inverter basically takes DC power, and it is able to invert that direct current and be able to put it into AC power, which is alternating current. Therefore, it inverts it. It's an electronic trick that has been around for quite some time. That way, with all the battery power you have on a boat, you can basically run your computer, and you can run all those things that you're used to running on 120 AC. That was a must-have on the boat. And
especially in the Northwest.
Yes. Yeah.
California.
Well, and that was the big thing. When we bought this boat, that was my question when we first looked at it to the brokers. Where's the inverter?
Where is it?
Yeah, he laughed at me. He said, it's a California boat. You know, you
don't
can't.
have 'em.
Yeah, you don't have them because you can't run air conditioning off of them because there's just not enough wattage or power associated, you know, with the batteries to run all of those types of systems. However, the way that we use boats up in the Northwest, we literally will go out 4, 5, 6 days at a time and be on the hook, we call it, but basically on the anchor. And, you know, you can't run the genset that whole time.
Did we get an inverter? No. We had to install it.
That's right.
Number 17, diesel heat. Up in the Northwest, it gets cold. If we're gonna live aboard, you need heat up here. California, it's warm down there, so they didn't have the diesel heat on this boat that we had wanted, but so that was one of the things that we did not get.
If you put in a system yourself, you might get away with a very stripped down system for $7,000. We've seen systems go as high as like $30,000 when you have them installed. So they're not cheap to put in. They're very warm and cozy, right?
Yeah.
Our last boat was wonderful with that. But the flip side is
Expensive.
there's expensive and a ton of maintenance for it.
Yeah.
So that was hard for us. It was almost a deal breaker when we saw that it didn't have diesel heat, which was very logical. And again, as we thought more about the inverter system that wasn't on this boat, we really tried to think about how we were going to kill 2 or 3 birds with one stone and be able to not only heat the boat with electric power, but also use our air conditioning heat exchangers, not have to have the expense or maintenance associated with diesel heat as well. So it was a major undertaking, but it was the foundation of the changes that we invested in the boat after we bought it.
Number 18.
Number 18.
Newer electronics. In Puget Sound, it's very important to know where all the markers are, if there's rocks underneath you, what the depths and all that. And if you look at the video of us bringing our boat back home, John was actually using navionics from his phone so we could navigate back home. So having newer electronics is very important, especially up in the Pacific Northwest.
Electronics are constantly changing, which means you generally don't want to put new electronics into a boat because they depreciate the instant. And I mean, they depreciate worse than a boat when we talk about depreciation, because there's always new electronics coming out every year. So having those already on a boat, it's kind of nice. You don't end up really paying for them, so to speak. So that's something we had to do, and that was an expense.
Yes.
And a refit.
Number 19 is an Icemaker. Our last boat had an Icemaker, and it was just wonderful having that in the summertime, you know, for drinks or to put into a cooler and keep other beverages cold. Even the little refrigerator freezer, it does not have an Icemaker in there. Frankly, it would just take up too much space in there, and so we just have the trays. But having an Icemaker would have been nice,
yeah.
But we didn't get it this go around.
And it might sound kind of bourgeois, like, oh, you don't have an ice maker. But out on the water, and I'm sure you've seen at grocery stores too, ice is starting to get expensive, even though it's just frozen water.
Yeah.
You know, you can see at a grocery store, they'll hit you for $2 a bag, especially up in the Pacific Northwest. Out on the docks,
That's $5.
yeah, it's as high as $5 a bag, and the bags seem to get smaller. So when you do need ice, it's kind of not a laughing matter. It actually has a fairly significant financial hit. So having an ice maker actually pays for itself pretty quickly. Within one season, you can easily pay for an ice maker.
Number 20, our last item is storage.
Yeah. Now that doesn't sound very sexy, does it?
But storage is so important, especially if you're going to live aboard. Where are you going to put all your stuff?
Yeah.
Well, so this boat just had all the little nooks and crannies and used every compartment. I mean, it's amazing how much storage that there is on this boat.
All the lockers are cedar lined. The majority of the lockers also have lighting in them. because often cabins, you know, you may not have your lights on, might be a little bit dim in them, and if you're able to,
Oh.
yeah.
Who is that?
That's rude.
Rude.
We ended up choosing a 2010 48-foot Navigator. It's a pilot house with a hardtop, an outstanding boat, solid fiberglass hull, no coring, so extremely strong.
Oh.
One of the best laid out boats in our opinion. Have a huge salon, a really nicely laid out galley, a breakfast bar, a pilot house with excellent visibility, seating for dining as well up in the pilot house as you're cruising the boat, a spacious bridge with tons of seating and great visibility, great layout for your dash to be able to have tons of electronics, staterooms that are separate, walnut wood interior, 2 heads, 2 showers, Corian countertops, even right down to the twin sliders in the back. They were made at the factory, and if you look at these things, they're gorgeous. They're gorgeous. Stainless steel. Those are some of the key things and why we ended up choosing the Navigator, and this has just turned out to be an absolute treat and a blessing.
Yeah. Hope you enjoyed that.
And we look forward to our next episode when we have a chance to really show you the refit, tear the boat apart, do a ton of work to it.
Ton.
Yeah, and the pitfalls and exciting parts, and what, like any remodel, refits are no different. Takes 3 times as long and costs at least twice as much as what you budgeted for, no matter how sharp your pencil is, it seems.
Yeah.
But we can't wait to show you more all about that and how we really put our fingerprint on the Elli-Yacht.
So thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.
Hit the subscribe button, and don't forget to click the bell as well, so as we go through and have new episodes released, you get reminded.